What's up, everyone? I'm going to be doing a review of my Acura TL 2007 Type S manual transmission. I've had this car for 6 years now, and I wanted to give my thoughts on why this might be a good used car for someone who wants to buy a manual car on a budget, or someone looking for a full-size sedan, and just the pros and cons that come with it, what to look out for, what's it good for, what to expect with it. So this car is about 285 horsepower, so pretty quick. Not the fastest car to modern standards, I guess, but if you're looking for something below 8,000, 9,000-ish, I would say it's good right now in the current market. I would say probably if it's around 150,000 miles or less, it will be about probably 8 or 9,000 bucks. That seems like a lot, and I think it is a lot, but I think that's just the market we're in right now. Also, this car in a manual is really rare, as you might know. So it's gonna keep getting more and more rare as time goes on because they don't make it anymore, obviously. I got this car back in 2017 for 8,200. I had about 160,000 miles, if I remember correctly, and now I have about 201,000 miles on it. And throughout that time, it's left me stranded one time, which was actually pretty recently, about 3-4 months ago. I went to get gas, and then when I filled the car, I wasn't starting, and the problem was that the starter died. So I had to tow that, and then I got it fixed for I think about $500-600, and I was back on my way. So that was the only time it left me stranded. There's been times where the battery died, but I just jumped it with a portable battery, and I was on my way. So that was the only time it left me stranded. One thing to really look out for, or a few things to look out for, is the timing belt must be changed every 100,000 miles or every 10 years. So if you're buying a used one, make sure that was changed recently. And if they say, oh, they inspected it and it looks good, but it was never changed, if you're still gonna buy that car, just know that you got to get it changed ASAP, because if it snaps, your engine is toast, and if your engine's toast, the car is pretty much done. You're totaling it, you're not fixing it. It's not worth the price. And then for the manual, it's pretty reliable. The transmission, the clutch, so I'm actually on the original clutch. I have 201,000 miles, but I think it's right at the last legs. Like, the engagement point for the clutch is really high now. When I got it, it was much lower, but really getting the last legs. And I mean, it's 200,000 miles, so the clutch is gonna go out. And plus, I don't drive it, I don't really baby it too much, so it's kind of expected. Like on my Acura RSX, my clutch went out at 100,000 miles, and now I'm at 200, and this clutch hasn't gone out yet. So it kind of comes with it. I think it's probably gonna be a $1,200 thing, $1,000 thing at a mechanic shop, independent mechanic shop, and I'll be on my way. Besides that, any other issues I have had a few suspension parts replaced throughout the years. Tie rods, what else have I gotten replaced? Motor mounts I've gotten replaced. Tires, obviously, that's pretty normal in every car, and I think that, and brakes and things like that, but I don't think anything else that was really crazy that isn't within the norm of a car. In terms of my engine, I haven't had anything done, like any work on it. I guess the motor mounts, if you count that, I guess that is not the engine. It's more like how the engine is connected to the car. And besides that, the actual engine, nothing. I haven't had any work done on it. The issues I have of the car right now is when I get a notification on the car that says tighten the fuel cap, and I've been getting that since I got the car. And when I looked it up, there's a few ways to fix it. One way is to fix it is to replace the gas cap, and another way is that it's probably like a solenoid I have to replace. And from what I've seen, it doesn't seem like it affects performance, and it doesn't give me a check engine light or anything, so I just live with it. Another thing I get once in a while is every so often, if I'm sitting in the car for a while, like idling, I'll sometimes get a notification on the car, like a check engine light, that'll say engine running too lean, and that code usually clears itself. So I haven't fixed it because something's running a little off, but I haven't gotten it fixed just because it clears itself every so often, so I'm not really worried about it. My gas mileage is honestly pretty trash. I get about 16-17 miles per gallon, but I barely drive any highway at this point, pretty much all local. So that's probably why when I do go on the highway and I'm cruising at about 75-80, or even a little less than that maybe, I'm getting close to 30 miles per gallon. So if you're cruising on 6th gear, you will get good fuel economy, but stop and go, it's really bad, and it takes premium gas, so you got to keep that in mind, especially with gas prices being so high as they are. But if you're looking for a front wheel drive manual transmission car, so if you have a pretty specific need in a car, I would say this is one of the only cars that fit that criteria, right? If you want a front wheel drive car, okay, that's manual transmission, and that is above 250 horsepower. I think your options at that point are a Civic Type R, maybe a Focus ST is about that. If you're going to all-wheel drive as well, then you'll have the Golf R as well, the Focus RS, and you'll have some of the German luxury cars. But if we're just going to a front-wheel drive car that's that fast, I think the only car that comes close is the Civic Type R, and obviously you're buying that car, it's 40 grand. Different car altogether as well, much more sporty of a car, faster car, and that car has its own issues. The paint is supposed to be really bad on it, really thin, and obviously that's not a good thing, because especially if you live in a cold climate where you get salt on the road, if any paint chip and your car starts rusting out, that's going to be horrible. In terms of rust for this car, I'm getting a little bit of rust in the wheel wells, and I suspect that, you know, when you drive, you get some rock chips, it hits up, and then you get a paint chip, and then it's going to rust over time. Honestly, I haven't done a great job taking care of that. I don't wash the car often enough. Like, I think if I wash the bottom of the car every summer or every winter, and then I, you know, put some wax on it so that the paint won't crack or anything like that, make sure there's no rust, and took off any rust quickly, it would last a lot longer. But it is what it is. It is 2007 at this point, and at this point I'm not really upgrading, because I think if I'm going to upgrade my car, like, I'll look at the modern car market, and I don't want anything brand new, because I don't like paying for appreciation, or for depreciation, I should say. I like buying stuff towards the bottom of the depreciation curve, so 8-9 years old cars, right? And anything that's that old, or even 7 years old, 5 years old, whatever, I don't see anything that's really appealing to me that's either a front wheel drive or all wheel drive and has to have a manual. Because anything else to me, it's like, am I really upgrading? The car is not everything what I want from it. Am I really upgrading? I don't feel like it is. I think at this point I want to hold on to this car as long as I can, and then at some point just go electric and go the complete opposite route of having a car that drives itself for you. But until then, I think I'll keep this car. And in terms of the technology in the car, it has an auxiliary port. The 2006 or the 2007 and 2008 have an auxiliary port in the car. What I have done is I bought an aftermarket thing that you connect to the XM radio. It's called a BT45, and that way you can connect your phone to Bluetooth in there, and it's, you get the steering wheel controls, and you get the track playing on your radio and everything, so it feels very factory. And you could also replace the head unit, but there is some issues with that, like the front speaker doesn't work properly. There's another thing where you can replace the whole thing, get a whole screen in the front, but I've heard complaints about that, and that also will control your HVAC, so I never went down that path. So in terms of technology, the only thing that I found without any compromises is just to add a Bluetooth module to it, and now it's as if it has a factory Bluetooth. So think of a car from 2011, 2012, 2013, around that era, before Android Auto, before Apple CarPlay. It's pretty much like that level now. The car does come with factory GPS. I've never used it before, and I never plan on using it. It does come with a factory backup camera, which I do use all the time, and I think it's pretty useful. It doesn't have any lane assist or anything like that, or radar cruise control, just the standard 2007 stuff. What else is there about this car? What is it to look out for? I'll give you a few other things. There is a problem with the factory. The car has factory Bluetooth for calls only, not for audio, but the part actually is defective and goes bad in pretty much every TL. I had a TL before this, I had the same issue. If you go on the forums online, every single one has it. And the solution to that is there's one of, I guess there's three solutions. So the problem is if it breaks, right, and it doesn't work, not only does it break and not work, is that it keeps trying to turn on and it'll drain your battery. So if you're trying to your car, it'll keep trying to boot the module, and since your car's not on, the battery will drain. So if your car is left for a day or two, it'll just die every time. And so there's basically three ways to fix this. One way would be to just replace it with another one, which I don't recommend, because you're not going to get audio streaming, just phone calls. And if you get the Bluetooth module that I got that gets the audio streaming, you also get phone calls, so you might as well just get that instead. The other option is just take it out, which is what I did, because I just don't want to drain the battery. And I guess a third option, which I did try in my old TL, and it did work for a while, is that you take because I guess the solder in it breaks because it gets old. I took it, I put it into an oven, or no, I did take it into an oven. Sorry, I took it, I used a heat gun, and I just heated up the whole thing until the solder gets melted a little. I didn't see it melt, but it gets stuck together again. Put it back in the car, and it worked for about a month, and it broke again. Tried it one more time, it worked for a week, and then it broke again. So then at that point, I just threw it out. Actually, no, I didn't even throw it out. I sold it on eBay as broken, and to someone, I guess, who wanted to fix it. I don't know. Yeah, so those are the main things of the car. In terms of the drivability of the car, it's very good in snow because it's front wheel drive, has traction control and all that. And so what you might be cross shopping with this car is probably a G35 or a G37, or maybe an Audi A4 or something like that, I would guess. I would say compared to a G35 and G37, which I have driven before, I've never driven them in a manual. I have driven a 350Z in manual. I think that they're a little funner to drive. If they were a manual, it would be funnier, but they're really bad in snow, and you can't get the manual ones on the all-wheel drive, so that's a compromise there. In terms of reliability, they're pretty reliable as well as this car, so I don't think there's much to compare there. I don't think you're going to go wrong either way in terms of reliability. Go the Audi route, you're going to have a lot of reliability problems, so I think the way to go is, if you're getting an old car, just go Japanese unless you know what you're really doing. So the other car I guess you would cross shop maybe is a Honda Accord, which is very close to the same car car. If you get a Honda Accord that's a little bit newer, maybe like 2010, 2011, 2012, around then, I'm not sure the exact year, I believe the engine is the same engine as this car. But the one for that same year, the engine is smaller. This car is a 3.5 liter engine. I think the Accord at the same year is the V6 one. I think it's a 3.2 or something like that. So it's a little slower. Of course, you can get the Accord in a coupe as well. But the TL, I think it's a nicer car. I like the body style much better. It has some suspension parts that are different. It has, some sway bars. It has the Brembo brakes and all that stuff, which the Accord does not have. So it definitely is sporty. Steering is really heavy in this car. I'm not a huge fan of the steering, to be honest. It's very heavy, but it's not very direct either. Like if you move it a good amount, the wheel doesn't turn. Like you drive a German car, you turn the wheel, it's like easy to turn, and the car just moves immediately. I don't know. It's a lot of dead space in it, even though it's a heavy wheel. It's not bad, but I definitely, not my favorite part of the car is not the steering in the car. The engine sounds really nice, especially when you hit VTEC. It has a decently high red line, but it's it's not like a super fast car or anything. I think it's a 5.2 0 to 60, and it's it's fun. I like it. It's much faster than the RSX I had before this, and I think it's a good car for anyone who has that requirement that I was stating earlier. And so overall I would say it's a good car, but the cost of ownership of the car when I've had it, so I bought it for 82. I actually have all my records. I just haven't gone through them, like all my maintenance records. I probably spent, I would say, this is including oil changes and stuff too, probably 2,500 since then. I would guess, like nothing huge, no huge expense, maybe 3,000. Let's just say 3,000 just to be safer. $3,000 in over 6 years, and the car has probably can sell it for as much as I got it for, or maybe a little bit more. So I think overall pretty good. A $3,000 like $3,000 over 5 years is pretty little, so I think it's a good purchase overall, and I'm thankful and I hope that the car still lasts. I don't want it to be the end of me having this car. Now, if you're just looking for an Acura TL and not specifically a Type S, here are the models that I recommend. If you're gonna get an 04 to 06, I do not recommend the automatic. It is not reliable and it can break down pretty easily. If you are gonna get an automatic, get an 07 or 08, and preferably a Type S will be better, but if you're a base one would be okay as well. Just don't get an automatic 04, 05, 06. And if you're going even older than that, do not get the TL at all. It's because the TL before that did not come in a manual at all, and they only had automatic, and those automatics were even worse than the automatics from the 04 to 05 and 06. I think they even had a recall on them at some point, so just don't get that car at all together. If you're getting a 04, 05, 06, get a manual. I actually had that one before this Type S. It was a good car. I sold it just because independent of getting a Type S, I sold it and then I had a gap, and then I bought a Type S after that. So that was also good. Pretty similar, a little softer, and the interior is a little bit different. It's a little bit more modern, the new one. That one didn't have a backup camera either. That one didn't have a screen, the one I had, and there's no auxiliary port, and it's slower because it's not a Type S, but it has Brembo's, the manual transmission. And then if you're gonna go newer, I don't know much about the TLX, but if you're gonna get the TL, the 4th gen TL, I do know a little bit about that just through research. The torque converter in that car, because the all-wheel drive, that's supposed to not be too reliable, so you got to watch out for that. And there is the one unicorn one though that I think is not as reliable, but seems like a really cool car, is the TL. I think it's maybe a 2012. They have that in a manual transmission, the all-wheel drive manual transmission, and that has a 3.7 liter engine, so it's like about 300 flat horsepower. So that's a pretty cool car. I'm not a huge fan of the shape of the 4th generation TL though. So if you are getting a TL, I think the best model actually is the 6-speed Type S. I think it's the most reliable and fast and funnest one. And it's the best wheels, everything about it I think is the best. But yeah, those are the ones to avoid. Just remember, don't get 2004, 2006 automatic, and you should be good. And overall, the manuals will be more reliable than the automatics. But I haven't heard anything bad about the automatic Type S's. I heard they're pretty good. They last pretty long as well. But obviously, it's not going to be as fun, and they should be a lot cheaper. So you shouldn't be paying the same price. And it won't hold the same price. It'll depreciate a lot faster because it's not nearly as unique as a car. Just keep that in mind. It won't hold its value as well. But you should pay less. So make sure you're not paying the same price as a manual, and you should be good to go. You will get probably maybe worse. I guess it depends on your driving style. If you get worse or better fuel economy in the automatic. But I think, I don't think that really matters too much. But yeah, thanks for watching.